Hi, I'm popping in before this video to just say Black Lives Matter, and if you want to help show that and show that you believe that and help make that a reality in our world, I will be leaving links to petitions you can sign, places you can donate, etc., information for you to utilize and help to make that change happen. I will be putting this clip over the next several videos so that we can continue using this platform to further change. Hi, I'm Selena, and today we're going to be doing the mid-year book Freakout tag. I've wanted to do this tag for a long time, basically since I first found BookTube, and so I am so thrilled to be finally doing it. And let's get into the questions. The first question is, what is the best book you've read this year? And I've got a video coming out called The Best Books That I've Read This Year So Far, and so I'm not going to talk about one that I read in that video. I'm actually going to talk about one that I reread this year, but when I first read it, I hate saying this about classics, but I didn't really get it. I didn't really connect with it on a really personal level the first time I read it, but the second time I read it, oh yeah, I connected with it big time. It's now one of my all-time favorite books. That book is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. This is a modernist novel. It's a classic set in the 1920s. It was written post-World War I. It follows a woman named Mrs. Dalloway who is planning a party, and this whole novel takes place in the span of one day. It jumps through the heads of many different characters, but Mrs. Dalloway is one of our primary characters. And so we follow her. She plans this party and is assaulted with different memories of her past that kind of come and go as she comes into contact with more people and more objects, etc. And then the other primary character we follow is Septimus Smith, who is a war veteran from World War I who is traumatized deeply, and he is really suffering right now, and we also get to be in his head as he goes through this day living with his trauma. This book is a lot about memory and our present and how they affect each other. It is about thought processes and cognition in a way. It's about psychology and mental illness and mental distress more than it is mental illness, I would actually say. This book affected me in more ways that I can really talk about the second time I read it. Like, I don't know how to tell you how much this affected me and how much I connected with it, but I really did connect with it. But this book does need several trigger warnings, mental illness, mental distress related trigger warnings, and so if that's you, check the comment I will be leaving down below. It won't be pinned because that's going to be resources for Black Lives Matter, but it will be down there. You will find it. It will have trigger warnings for this and any of the other books that I talk about that I think need trigger warnings. I'll tell you. I love this book. It felt like I was reading my brain. The second question is, what is your favorite sequel for the second half of the year? And my favorite sequel that I've read so far is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, but I have some honorable mentions here. But this is the answer. The other sequels that I read and really loved this year were Cress by Marissa Meyer. I read Scarlet and Cress this year, but Cress is my favorite so far in the Lunar Chronicles. This is the third book in the Lunar Chronicles. It's a series of sci-fi fairy tale retellings, and this is a retelling of Rapunzel, and I loved it. In the same vein of retellings and sequels, I read Just Ella this year, which is about a girl named Ella who has this typical Cinderella story and then realizes maybe it's not what she wants. And this book is about that journey. It was really sweet, really cute. It's a fun middle grade, and I continued on with the series, and I really liked them because Palace of Mirrors and Palace of Lies, which are books 2 and 3, I think I even liked them better than Just Ella, and they are definitely some of my favorite sequels I've read this year so far. Question 3 is there a new release that you haven't read yet but are really excited for? And yeah, actually there is. There's The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu, which I'm really excited for. The Kingdom of Back, if you haven't heard of it, it's about like Mozart's sister and how her brother got famous but she got forgotten, and I'm really interested in that. It seems to have like a fantasy twist and it sounds really nice. And then there's another new release that I just found out about that I don't know the author's name for, but it'll be on the screen, and that's The Henna Wars. And this book I know is about two girls who both set up shops where they do henna, but it only belongs to one of the girls' cultures, I believe. And the girls have a crush on each other, or there's like somewhat one-way crush. There's some sort of crush thing happening. It's about girls who like girls. It's a YA contemporary. It sounds really cute. I want to check it out, see how that goes. Number 4 is what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And that is hands down Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. That is the 4th book in the Stormlight Archive, which is set to be a 10-book series with 2 5-book arcs, I guess. And I read the first 2 books in the Stormlight Archive, The Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, this year, and I have loved every second of it. I'm going to be reading Oathbringer next month. I'm very excited about it, and I am very excited to get into Rhythm of War when it comes out. It is my most anticipated release. Number 5 is what is your biggest disappointment so far? And I'm gonna have a whole video coming out the next time I post a video, basically, about the worst books of the year that I read, and so I'm not gonna go into any of those, even though there were some pretty big disappointments in that list too. But I'm gonna talk about a book that I actually DNF'd because I couldn't stand it. I hated it so much I had to DNF it. And that book is Symptoms of Being Human by Jeff Garvin. So I was really excited about this book. It is about a gender fluid protagonist named Riley. You get to follow Riley as they live their day-to-day life. You get to follow Riley as they set up a blog talking about being gender fluid, being transgender, and how it gets famous. I was really excited because you can always use more of that. I'm a part of the LGBTQ+ community myself. I'm not gender fluid, but I'm always looking for representations of the very diverse range of identities in my community. And I just hated the way this one was done. The way that Riley interacted with other people in the LGBTQ+ community was just not good. Riley was just so clueless. Like, Riley knew nothing about this community that they are a part of. You learn a lot when you're on the internet, and like, Riley, there was just so many things that Riley should have picked up on, or should have known not to do, like, that it was just a little bit unrealistic to me. And then getting into Riley, I'm not gender fluid, and so I can't really comment on whether I think this is good representation or not, but I have seen a lot of Own Voices reviews of this book who felt like this book was not a good portrayal of being gender fluid, or even more broadly being transgender. I also do think that what this book sells you is not exactly what you get. This book will have trigger warnings in the comments. I highly recommend you to protect yourself with this book. I personally don't think this is a bad book. I do think it's a bad book, but that's just my personal opinion. I have seen people love this book. I've seen people connect to this book. I've seen people be glad this book exists. And if that's you, I'm so happy for you. I just hated it. It made me very angry. I don't want to deter anyone from picking it up if they still seem interested, but if it sounds, check out the trigger warnings, and maybe if it sounds like it's not for you, it just might not be. And that's the truth. On to positivity. What was your biggest surprise of the year? Okay, The Great Hunt by Wendy Higgins. This is a book that is a retelling of a really obscure grim fairy tale called The Singing Bone. This book is about this princess named Arity, who is basically, her kingdom is being hurt and people are being killed, and this because of this beast that is kind of ravaging the area around them. And so the king, in order to incentivize people to kill the beast, offers up Arity's hand as a prize for killing the beast. This competition begins taking place in order to kill the beast. I thought this plot was so fun. The romance is, I didn't read it for the romance, let me tell you that. But I really thought this was just a fun, interesting read, and I even gave it 4.5 stars, which no one expected. Not even me. Number 7 is what is your favorite new author that you've read this year? It could be a new author, like a debut, or just someone who's new to you. And that author for me, I think it's gonna be Virginia Woolf, because I loved this book so much. I loved Mrs. Dalloway. I've wanted to read more of her works ever since. Number 8 is who is your favorite fictional crush of the year so far? And I don't really get like fictional crushes, but if we're talking like who is my favorite love interest, that is Cresswell Thorne from Cress. Wait, it's not Cresswell, it's Carswell Thorne. Mr. Carswell Thorne from Cress. I thought he was a great love interest. I was really invested in him. I love him as a character. I've loved him as a character since we first met him, and I've loved his dynamics with people who are he's not in relationships with, but I also really, really enjoyed his role in this book. I thought we saw a lot of him, and I was really pleased with his character and how his character was used. Number 9 is who is your new favorite character? And I have 3 because I love these characters so much. Cress from Cress by Marissa Meyer. Cress is so cute, so awkward, so real, so relatable. I love her so much. I also this year loved Harper from A Cursed Dark and Lonely. I thought Harper stole the show with this book. I love her. She is the main character of this Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's pretty typical Beauty and the Beast retelling. The things that make it different are probably Harper, honestly, because Harper is such a fun, vivacious protagonist. And then quite possibly my favorite protagonist ever, quite possibly my favorite Brandon Sanderson protagonist, quite possibly my favorite protagonist of the year, so far at least, is Spensa from Skyward. I love Spensa. Spensa is such a fun protagonist to follow. Her development, I think, is great. Her quirkiness is great. Her toughness is great. If you like that kind of over-the-top tough character who is actually has a lot of depth to her, then I think Spensa would be perfect for you. I love her. Number 10 is a book that made you cry, and that was definitely A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This book is about a boy who is coming to terms with some difficult truths about himself and his family in this little middle grade novella, whatever it is. He's doing this because a monster comes to him at night and is trying to get him to admit something. And so it's beautiful. My goodness. It was a 4-hour audiobook. I cried for the last hour of it. Number 11 is what is a book that made you happy? And I mean, I have a lot of this year. Palace Chronicles made me happy. Cress made me happy. Number 12 is your favorite book to TV or book to movie adaptation that you've seen this year. And this is not one that came out this year, but I recently watched Pride and Prejudice, the 2005 version with Keira Knightley, and I loved it. I haven't seen that many movies this year, and of the ones I have seen, they're not adaptations. Oh wait, no, there's another one, Just Mercy. That movie is it's a movie based on the biography by Bryan Stevenson. I love Pride and Prejudice, but Just Mercy is amazing, and like, you need to watch it. I saw it in theaters. It was amazing. Number 13 is what is your favorite like review or video, whatever medium, whatever bookish medium you talk on. What's your favorite one of those you've done this year? And my favorite video is this video right now. I want to do this video since I literally found BookTube. This was one of the first like videos I saw when I found BookTube, and I am so happy to be doing it right now. Number 14 is what is the most beautiful book you have bought this year? And I bought a lot of beautiful books this year, and some of them you will see in my first book haul, which is coming out next week sometime. But I don't want to talk about the books that I am going to be talking about in that book haul. I want to show off some that I got earlier in this year. The first 2 are actually some that I received for Christmas from my boyfriend, and they are these beautiful editions of The Silmarillion and The Unfinished Tale. Art for these covers, I'm pretty sure, is done by Alan Lee, who a lot of his artwork, he's like kind of the quintessential artist of Middle Earth, basically. Like, if you don't know, I'm sure you do if you like Tolkien at all, but a lot of his art has influenced the movies in a way, I believe. And then my final most beautiful books that I've bought this year so far are 2 books that were illustrated by Robert Ingpen, who is one of my favorite illustrators of all time, Peter Pan and Wendy. I mean, I love his illustrations so much. I also love Peter Pan. I love seeing different illustrations of Peter Pan. And then I didn't stop there, and I also have the Robert Ingpen illustrated edition of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, which, as much as I'm obsessed with the John Tenniel illustrations, I'm also obsessed with collecting other illustrations. He has like a more realistic style, which is interesting with Alice in Wonderland, but I think that it still works. Like, it still retains a lot of the like iconic bits of Alice in it. And number 15 is what are the books that you want to read by the end of the year. I don't know, I've been like kind of doing things I don't usually do, like mood reading and switching up my TBR, and so I'm kind of just letting my reading go where it takes me. I don't have like a set TBR for the rest of the year. I have books that I want to get to, that I plan to get to, but I'm not sure that I will be, you know, really strict about it. But I do know that some I definitely want to get to are the ones I'm most excited about, which are Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, Starsight by Brandon Sanderson, Winter by Marissa Meyer, The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winters, and The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. I've already read Lord of the Rings, but I want to reread it because I was pretty young. Well guys, that was the Midyear Freakout tag. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Bye.